Okay, I wanted to make sure it was connected. It was showing low connection.
Yes.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. If you're watching us on YouTube, welcome. Thank you for subscribing to our YouTube podcasts or live devotions that we have. And thank you for joining us today on your lunch hour if you're in Central Time Zone. Mm-hmm. We had to rearrange our live today for our staff meeting. So we apologize for any inconvenience, but we're so grateful that you could still join us. You could always watch us on replay.
Yes.
But let us know that you watched. So if you're watching on replay, please let us know. And then let us know how this affected you.
And don't forget to spread the love.
Yes. Hit that share, that little arrow for us. All right, so today we're going to have a conversation about another favorite character.
Yes.
Like, I love the character of Joseph. He's a real person. But I love his whole story. And there's so many things that we can learn from him.
Yes.
From his personal life, and then that affected his professional life. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to learn about management skills and how to conduct ourselves in different atmospheres and how God can use us in such a great way in the marketplace today.
Morning. Yeah, it's practical things to use day to day,
Yeah.
in the real world. That's
right. Do. That's what it's all about. And listen, when you read your Bible, that's how you need to read it.
Yes.
You need to read it like, how can I apply this? How can I take this? How can I modernize this for me so that I can relate to it and understand it?
Because God's word never changes. It's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So that means it's going to be whatever happened back then in the Bible times is happening still today.
Yes.
So we have to put that in. We have to think about that. It's for today.
Yes.
Also,
it's always. It's amazing how when all of this stuff was going on and he chose what he was going to put in the Bible, he knew it would apply.
Yes.
He knew we would relate.
Plug it in.
We could figure it out. We could relate, and it would work for us today, forever, and always.
He left us little nuggets
Yes,
everywhere.
he did. So the story of Joseph takes place in Genesis 37 through Genesis 50, and you'll see his whole storyline. So Joseph is the son of Jacob.
Yes. And
Jacob is the son of Isaac. Mm-hmm. Isaac is the son of Abraham. So here you see these are our founding fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Mm-hmm. This is where all the tribes came from, the tribes that of Israel. They're all segmented out, and they all had different jobs, different categories of their life. And so here we find Jacob has this son called Joseph, and he's one of his last sons. He had a lot of sons. I don't know how many daughters, but he had a lot of children by multiple women. So talk about blended families. I was thinking about that last night and this morning. Yes. Here I am doing this study on blended families, and this is a perfect dysfunctional family with multiple halves, brothers and sisters, and what people might call, there wasn't any step. I don't use that word, but anyway, there was a lot of sibling and rivalry and different baby mamas, but in their case, they all lived together.
Yes.
Could you imagine how chaotic that would be?
Right.
To share your husband with all of these other women, and the animosity.
Jealousy, everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm teaching on messy people, and this is a messy family.
Yeah. This is so messy.
We can all relate to something in this. Yes,
I definitely grew up in a dysfunctional family, and so I definitely can relate in a blended home that you're not appreciated, you're not accepted, you're rejected, you're not good enough, and this is Joseph's life. But he was the father's favorite.
Yes.
Right? So favoritism is used by the enemy. It really is to divide. And so when you favor a child over the other, first of all, that is so wrong as a parent, right?
Yes.
You need to love all of our children.
We have to love them differently.
Yes. Yeah. You treat them differently, but you don't favor one child over the other.
No.
They're all your children. All
precious.
And they're all God's children, and you're supposed to train them up in the way that they should go.
Yes.
But Joseph was favored, and all of his brothers hated him. So there's all this resentment. So I'm just giving you the backstory.
Yes.
But what we're going to learn about Joseph is just key things, and I want to just point these out. Personal discipline. He prioritized God. He was spiritually mature. He was a great leader before he was leading people.
Yes.
He was
a natural
Yes.
leader. Yeah.
Because he was a God-made leader. He was counterculture. He was truly reliant on God. He didn't get ahead of God. He was totally submissive. He excelled in every job that he had. Now, in his youth, he was a dreamer, but then he became an adult and he interpreted dreams and visions. So God used what he had given him all along. And then he was a strategist. He was a man of purpose. He was a man of honor and integrity. And we are responsible for discovering our own purpose. So his purpose was unique, but we have to encounter or discover our purpose and interpret the vision that God has for our life. Because each one of you has a vision for your life. God has a vision for your life.
Yes.
And so it's up to you to discover your vision and your purpose.
He has a hope and a future for all of us. That's right. Jeremiah 29:11.
Right. And so purpose defines who you are and how you impact your world. So we're supposed to impact the world for Christ, but the world is your world, your area of influence, your circle, the people that you work with, the people that you live with, your neighborhood, the people that you go to church with, everybody that you encounter at the ball field, ballet recitals, your world. And so your purpose defines who you are and how you impact the world. So it's not a position, it's not a position or a title.
Right.
You don't have to be the VP of whatever to have a purpose and to influence the world.
We all have a purpose.
You don't have to be a business owner.
Every one of us have been chosen by God.
Yes.
Each one of us.
Yes. So it doesn't matter what you do for a living, how you make money, or what position you have in that company. It's about being on purpose and doing what God has called you to do. So Joseph's purpose was to deliver the world from famine. And God used his position. God didn't care about his social standing as much as he cares about his heart. And this is the same thing for us.
Yes.
He doesn't care what circles we're traveling in as much as he's caring about our heart and our intentions and what we're doing and how we're doing it.
Right.
And in our positions, no matter what they are, God can use us in that position.
Yes.
And that's what he did for Joseph. So he was a dreamer and he was turned into a prime minister. Like that is like the amazing, from rags to riches, right? But he had a rough life. And so we're going to look at some of that. But he was separated from his family for 20 years. Could you imagine being isolated in a different culture, in a different setting, not surrounded by anybody that you know?
No.
Totally secluded, totally alone. But here he is in a different culture, and he is excelling, and he is doing exactly what God has called him to do.
Shelly just said, oh my goodness, I was just listening about Joseph. Praise God.
Oh, good. Maybe you can give us some insight.
Yes.
Chime in.
Chime in, please.
Chime in. So let's look at Genesis 37, 3 through 11. Okay, so I just gave you like a little bit of a snapshot, but let's dig in. So in verse 3, now Israel, which is Jacob, God changed his name to Israel. But so sometimes you'll see it written as Jacob, sometimes you see it seen as Israel.
Yes.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than all of his children because he was the son of his old age. And also he made him a tunic of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all the brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. So they couldn't say anything nice.
Nothing. And what do we say? If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
I mean, that had to be hard on them, right? They weren't good enough. So now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So now, I think it's careful when you have a dream. How did they hate him? Because he told them the dream.
Yes.
You have to be careful who you tell your dreams to.
Yes.
You don't just tell it to anybody.
Also, it doesn't always look like what you think. Yes, you have to, if you're given a dream or whatever, you have to it's a walk it out process. You have to pray for revelation. You have to pray for God to reveal to you what, because each segment in that dream means something.
Right.
Very important. But you hold that dear.
Yeah.
It's just like a promise that God has given you.
Right.
You don't come around here and strut
Just
around.
everybody.
Oh, well, God gave me this promise and God did this. You know what I'm saying? You have to guard it.
And God confirms it and God reassures you through the whole process.
And you have to nurture that. You know what I'm saying? You have to nurture what God has given you. Because once it does come about or whatever, it's going to be even greater than you could imagine anyway.
Absolutely.
Like even our dreams, like we think it's going to be great, but it's going to be even greater.
He is
so
better
much
and
better.
greater.
Our minds can't even fathom what he has.
Yeah. So verse 6. So he called to them, please hear this dream which I have dreamed. And the other thing too must be they weren't having dreams.
Right.
God was giving him dreams. So there's jealousy on so many levels. Mm-hmm. So verse 7, there we were, binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And indeed your sheaves stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf. Mm-hmm. And his brother said to him, shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us? So they hated him even more for his dream and for his words. Then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers and said, look, I have dreamed another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me. So he told it to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, what is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow down to the earth before you? And his brothers envied him. But his father kept the matter in mind. Now, first of all, if you're having a dream, how can you be rebuked? You can't force a dream. Like, you can't make it up. It's not your fault. God gives you dreams, and he has a plan for your life, and he's trying to help you prepare for what he has for you, to kind of give you a trajectory of which way that you should go.
Yes.
So it's not my fault.
No.
It's because God made me for a reason, and he's given me something that he wants me to fulfill. Mm-hmm. But when you tell it prematurely, it creates strife, it creates drama, it creates problems.
You can even abort what God wants to do because you are. Like, you're interpreting wrong.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And it could be, I mean, he's telling them.
He was very prideful with it. You know what I'm saying in this? He's just like.
I think he was prideful, but I think he was innocently prideful.
Yeah, yes.
Because he was just like, hey, I had a dream.
He was
like,
excited.
Oh my gosh.
And it makes you very excited. It does.
Yeah.
When you have dreams and stuff about things that God is showing you, it makes you excited. It makes you pumped up. It makes you like, oh, I trust God and I believe in his promises. It builds your faith. It does.
See, this was counterculture.
Yes.
Because he is a young guy. He should not be over a ruler of anything.
Right.
In this culture, the firstborn son is the one that inherits. He's the one that's going to be the master of everything. He's going to be the first in line. Right. So his dream is offensive to them.
Very much
and even to the father. And so it's just really interesting. So then in verse 18, let's go. Genesis 37, verse 18.
And Shelley says, it's not always how we think it will pan out, but God will bring his promises to pass. And that is the truth.
Yes.
God will finish what he has started in all of us.
Oh my gosh.
Philippians 1:6. He will finish what he started. And what he has given you, like we're saying, nurture it. Keep it to yourself. You know, I mean, of course, there's some people that you can go to and be like, hey, God gave me this dream. Can you help me in this? Help me pray about it for revelation, for wisdom, or whatever, to carry what God has given me.
And you know what? It might not be a dream. It might be an idea.
Yes.
It might be that somebody else comes to you and say, you know what? Have you ever thought about blah? Or I got a word for you and the Holy Ghost told me to tell you blah.
Yes.
So it comes in different forms and fashions.
All
and so you have to...
God will speak to you however he wants to, through nature, through a person. I mean, he's almighty. He can do it and he will do it.
Yes. So verse 18. So now, so let me back up. So now what's happened is Joseph, they're shepherds, that they're farmers. And the dad told Joseph to go to the brothers and check on them. So in verse 18, now when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. So this bitterness, this rage, this anger, this jealousy, is driving them to want to commit murder.
And what do? Sometimes we do that.
With our mouth.
With our mouth. Well, I mean, when we see somebody else doing something, like they have maybe presented this dream or they presented something to us or around us or whatever, and we automatically, what do we want to do? Jealousy starts seeping in, all this deceit, all this stuff that the enemy is causing. Mm-hmm. So then what do we start doing? We start murdering them with our mouths.
Right.
Yes.
But they wanted to physically shut him down.
Yes.
Tear him apart. And then in verse 23, so it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. That tunic represented the favor that he had on his life for his father.
And each color meant something.
And so they hated that tunic because they didn't have one. And so in verse 31 through 33, it says, so they took Joseph's tunic, killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the tunic in the blood. Then they sent the tunic of many colors, and they brought it to the father and said, we found this. Do you know whether it's your son's tunic or not? Like, this is such manipulation.
Man, they were pretty clever.
Yes. And then he recognized it and said, it is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces. So, they never said anything happened. They just presented the tunic and let his father come up with whatever he thought happened. And then in verse 36, now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and the captain of the guard. So he really didn't die. They faked his death. They sold him to the Midianites, and the Midianites then sold him to Potiphar. So now he's a slave.
Yep.
He went from being, the son of Jacob, one of our founding fathers, very wealthy family, people of prominence, and then all of a sudden now he's a slave. Circumstances that he didn't do it.
Right.
It was just done to him. And so now let's look at where he's at in Genesis 39, verse 1 through 6. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, brought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man, and he was in the house of the master of the Egyptians. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. So Joseph found favor in his sight and served him. Then he made him overseer of the house and all that he had put under his authority. So it was, from the time that he had made him overseer of the house and all that he had, that the Lord blessed Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was all on that he had in the house and in the field. So now, he is Potiphar's servant. He's a slave. But the Lord was with Joseph. And it was so evident that Potiphar, the Egyptian, who does not even worship God, could see that God was on him. And that everything around him was prospering.
Right.
That's what God has called us to do.
Yes.
That we change the atmosphere. That everything that we do prospers because we're doing it unto him.
That's right.
So he's in a different culture. They worship different gods.
Yeah.
They don't believe like he believes.
And
but he's still a man of integrity and honor.
Yes, and see, he was dealt some pretty bad cards, right?
But
he did not lose his integrity.
And this is just the first
bad
card.
The first part of it. But he did not lose who he was because of his circumstance. And that is so important that we understand that no matter what circumstance we walk through, we have to stand firm on the firm foundation of Jesus Christ, that nothing shifts about us or changes about us because of the circumstance. Right. It has a lot to do with, joy and happiness. A lot of people get that messed up.
Oh, yeah.
Where they
happiness
think that
is fleeting.
Yes.
Joy
we
is
have
eternal.
to have unspeakable joy no matter what we walk through. And that's hard sometimes.
Well, the thing is, we have the joy because it comes from the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And so we have to accept it, receive it, and then extend it. So happiness is just how we feel. Oh, I'm happy today. Oh, I'm not happy today.
But see, that's proof he didn't walk by his feelings in this. He stayed true to who he was, even though he was dealt some very, very bad cards.
Yeah. And so everything that he did prospered. And then he was over and think about this in your job. Think about how can you make your job prosperous? How can you make your department, your business, whatever it is that you're doing, your household, raising your kids.
Yeah.
How can you make that prosperous? What can you do? What changes have to be made?
You know, a lot of people think, you know, when you hear, you know, I want to change the world, but somebody thinks, oh, well, poor pitiful little me can't change the world, but you can. Every little world. Yes, every little bitty thing matters, though. Every little bitty thing equals something huge.
Yeah.
There's a blessing in the hard places when we seek God. Yes, when we seek first the kingdom of God, Matthew 6:33, we say that all the time. When we seek Him first, yes, there is blessings that are hidden in that hard time.
Right.
In walking through that, keeping your gaze on Christ the whole entire time.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, Joseph didn't. He didn't
waver.
He didn't decide to worship who they worshipped or whatever. He stayed true.
He was steadfast. He didn't waver from his belief system.
Yes. And that's what we're called to do.
Right. And so in verse 7, let's pick it back up through verse 10. And it came to pass after these things that the master's wife, casting longing eyes on Joseph, and she said, lie with me. But he refused and said to his master's wife, look, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. There is no greater in this house than I, nor has he kept anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How can I do this great wickedness against and sin against God? So it was, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he did not heed her to lie with her or be with her. So here he is being propositioned by his boss's wife. His master's wife. Now he's prospering. He can have anything that he wants. Nothing's been withheld from him. He's been treated well. But how easy would it be to compromise? Nobody would know, right? Nobody would know.
That's right.
I can go ahead and have some. She's offering it. Why can't I get it? But he's like, no, it's wrong, and it's a sin against God, and I will not do it. He will not heed to that.
Yes.
And so then in verse 20, let's pick that up. Verse 20 to 23. Then Joseph's master took him and put him into prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and he gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hands all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever they did there, it was his doing. The keeper of the prison did not look into anything that was under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. Yes. So he's in prison because he was accused of committing adultery with the master's wife.
Yes.
She framed him. She accused him of, trying to molest her. And so, he has to protect his wife. He sends him off to jail. But here, the Lord is with him in jail. Yeah. And everything that he does, he's getting promoted. He's getting positions of authority, even in prison. Hey, Izzy. Is that Izzy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi.
So sometimes we get grunt jobs. Sometimes there are jobs that we don't want to do but we have to because we have to provide for our families, and we're miserable, and it's not something that we want. How many times, I'm sure you've had a job that you hated. You hated the people that work there. They're heathens, you say, if you're a Christian. Like, they're so immoral and you don't want to work there. Or maybe they're just, that you don't get along. Maybe it's like they're really cliquey and you're the outsider. But that was Joseph's life.
Yes.
And yet, despite all of the surroundings and the circumstances and the people that were around him, and they didn't worship like he worshiped. They didn't worship the same God that he worshiped. He still honored God. Yes. How hard is that?
Yeah, and his character stayed intact the entire time. I mean, just like you said, he had a chance to sleep. I'm assuming that Potiphar's wife was absolutely gorgeous. I mean,
and
Egyptian,
he was
that's
hot,
what I'm saying.
And he was hot.
I mean, he had a chance.
He could have done it.
He could have done it so quickly.
How easy. And how many people have done that?
Yes.
Fall and pray. Like, okay, one night
do the enemy schemes,
or just having an affair. Like, it's easy to do.
It is.
But he was like, I'm not about that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to honor God. And it's really difficult when you don't have a brother or a sister to lock arms with and lift you up and pray with you. But this is the one case, I don't know of any other in the Bible, where he stood and set apart. I mean, Daniel did that, but this he had so much. Joseph had so much against him.
This is just like one punch after the other. Yes. He's just like, he's walking through one thing after the other, and his character is staying intact. He is still being true to God. I mean,
and he didn't have a Bible.
No.
He didn't have a Bible.
He didn't have
a phone app.
No, and he wasn't able to just run here and there and go pray or go do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like just run down the road to your local church or wherever. He had none of that.
He didn't have those tools that we have. What's our excuse, guys? You know, like we use so many excuses for not doing our best job, not being faithful in our homes and taking care of our kids, and being a victim because everyone's talking about us or nobody likes us or we can't get along or whatever the situation is. We have many excuses.
We all made so many excuses.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's time to stop making excuses. There's no more excuses anymore.
Yes.
Nicole says, it's so important we do our jobs with excellence. I love having you on board with us. She's talking to Shelly.
Yes.
So that's awesome. Yes.
So we are supposed to do our job, because actually there is a scripture that says we're supposed to do our jobs not unto men, but unto the God. Lord. So we work for God. We don't work for Covenant Community Church, even though we are working for God, like literally.
Yeah.
Because we're in a church. But it could, maybe you work at CVS or Walgreens
or McDonald's, anywhere,
or Carhartt if you're here locally, or other coal mines. You are working for God. Maybe you're a nurse, whatever it is, firefighter. You're working for God.
And see,
you are not working for man. I think that
it's so important that we understand that. We talk about all the time change, right?
Yes.
But to have change, you have to be the change.
Yes.
Like if you want change in your life, in any area of your life, you have to be the change.
Yeah.
You have to decide there's something that I'm going to change about myself or my circumstances, or there's something that has to change.
And the thing is, you have to make the decision, but only God can actually do the transformation and change. You have to line your will up to His. Mm-hmm. You have to be in sync with Him, and then things change.
Yes.
But you can't do it on your own.
Right.
You're incapable of doing it on your own. You can try, but you keep failing.
Yes, by saying, I decide I'm going to be the change. That means you have to walk it out with Christ. You have to decide, okay, I'm going to pick up my Bible. I'm going to read it 15 minutes a day. I'm going to pray 15 minutes a day.
And I'm going to apply what I've learned.
Yes, and I'm going to start looking at people when I go into stores and
eye contact. Oh,
when you're talking to people and noticing things about people that are going on, getting out of my phone. You know what I'm saying? I see so many people that walk around with their phones the whole entire time.
Or you're at dinner with your family and everyone is
on their phone,
down,
texting each other underneath the,
But Joseph didn't have all of those distractions.
Right.
He had other types of distractions that he could have easily left God and served the Egyptian gods, because they had multiple gods. He could have done that easily.
Yes.
So let's look at Genesis 40 verse 8. And they said to him, we each have had a dream. He's in jail. Remember, he's in jail.
Yeah, prison.
And these people that work for the king, the Pharaoh, are having dreams. And they're in jail also. So verse 8. And we each have had a dream, and there's no interpreter. So Joseph said to them, do not interpretations belong to God? Tell them to me, please. So immediately, he's bringing God into the situation. And then in verse 41, 12 through 14, he is in prison, and he still has not failed God. And I just love that. So verse 12, now there was a young Hebrew man with us there. These are the servants that one of the servants actually got out of jail, and he's talking to the Pharaoh, and he's saying, the servant of the captain of the guard, and we told him, he interpreted our dreams for us, and each he interpreted according to his own dream. Verse 13, and it came to pass just as he interpreted for us, so it happened. So what he said came to pass. He interpreted it correctly. He restored me to my office, and he hanged him, meaning the other guy got hanged and then he got restored. So he's saying, this guy is legit.
Right.
He can interpret dreams. He's hearing from God.
Yes.
Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him quickly. So immediately now he's out of jail, out of the dungeon, and he shaved, changed his clothing, and came to Pharaoh. So they presented him clean, and he talks to Pharaoh. And then verse 16, so Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace. So he immediately, again, even to the king, to the authority, he's like,
He didn't
listen,
care.
I am subject to God.
Yes,
God is the
I
one that knows
answer
all
to
things.
God.
Yes.
Yes.
So if you
I
want to
don't
know,
answer to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you want to know something, we have to bring God into this. We can't
God's got to be at the forefront.
How many
of
times
everything.
are people ashamed or afraid to mention the name of God?
Yes.
Or, you know, obviously people are afraid of saying Jesus, but even saying God. People are ashamed at work because we're ridiculed, but you have to take a stand. You have to stand out. We were called to be people that stand out.
Yeah, people that are set
and
apart.
not blend in to the culture.
Yes.
So in verse 41, now verse
we
25.
have to stay true to God no matter what. I mean, if you call yourself a Christian or a follower, you know, you have to be who you say you are. Like, you have to stand firm. You have to stand up.
Yeah.
You just
so
have
what
to.
makes you a Christian if you don't read your Bible, if you don't have communion with him, praying every day, or standing up and being who, how does that make you a Christian if you don't do those things?
Right.
I want you to ask yourself, you know, am I truly representing
Christ.
Jesus if I say that I'm a Christian? Because people are watching. People are watching you.
Yes.
All right, so verse 25. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. So God will give people dreams and visions that are not following God because he's trying to get their attention.
Get their attention, yes.
And God is trying to get your attention today. I really believe that. There's
I do
someone
too.
there that is not following after God. Maybe you're not a Christian, but God is wooing you.
Yes.
And he's trying to get your attention, and he's showing you things here and there, and you're kind of being awakened and enlightened into, like, oh, maybe there is a God. Or maybe you've accepted Jesus, but you're not living for him. You're not working for him. You come to church and you check, get her done.
Right.
Get her done. But then you're not living your best life. You're not living that abundant life because you're not working for him. Maybe you work in the coal mines. My husband used to tell me these stories all the time about these people that profess to be Christians, but they didn't act like Christians underneath, cussing like a sailor, telling dirty jokes, doing all this stuff, and not living like Christ.
Right.
And so if you are a Christian, then we are called to live like Christ everywhere that we go, to be the same person. Not one person here and another person there.
Yes, and there's
just like Joseph.
There is no greater time than today because the enemy has stolen enough from you guys. The enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. John 10
none of us
we can't have that abundant life if we keep allowing him to steal things, because we do end up allowing him. You know what I'm saying? We have to put a stop to the enemy's schemes.
That's right.
To the things that the enemy. We have to put a guard on our mind, on our heart, on what we speak, what we do, how we treat people. We have to be aware of those things. And you know, there's no better day than today to decide, devil, you're not going to steal anything else from me today. Not today. I'm going to stand firm today. Today I'm going to stand firm. I'm going to decide today is the day.
Today's the day of salvation. Today is the day.
Redemption.
Today is the day of new beginnings.
Yes.
Today. And so, you know, our pastor's always saying, you can't obey what you don't know.
Yes.
If you're not in the Word and you're not reading and you're not surrounding yourself with Christian people, or if you want to become a Christian, it is so easy, I promise you.
Yes.
Tell us and we can lead you into a prayer. All you have to do is just submit yourself, your life to God, to
we
Jesus.
can even do a sinner's prayer at the end of this, and you can pray it at home. Like, pray it at home, wherever you are. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where you are. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah, you can be anywhere. Yes. Anyway, let's continue. Let's look at the life of Joseph. Genesis 41 verses 37 through 39. So the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all of his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find such a man as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Inasmuch as God has shown you all of this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you." And so when you represent Jesus and you represent him well, you can't help but not notice God in someone like that.
That's right.
And so here's Pharaoh. they're idol worshipers.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, God is in you, the
saw
Spirit
that.
of God.
Yes.
The strategies that you just came up with for us to get out of famine.
Yes.
The strategy that you came up with to save our people,
Yes.
that is God. There's
Yes.
no way you could have come up with that plan.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way that you could have interpreted that dream. And I see God in you.
Yes. And the whole time, Joseph didn't condemn them for the way that they lived.
No.
He wasn't coming with condemning spirit about,
Just like Jesus
well, you
does
don't
it.
know. But sometimes he does bring correction.
Right.
Sometimes
When you're
we
a
are
Christian.
brought, yes,
But
to
these-
correction.
Yeah,
but
they're not.
They were not Christians. And he could have, like I
They
said.
were not Jewish. Because
Right.
here we're talking about Jewish
Right,
people.
but he could have taken this totally different. He could have took this a totally different direction, and he didn't. He stayed true to God.
Right.
He listened to God, and that
He
is so
worked
important.
for them, and he served them,
Yes.
no matter what.
And that's showing the
And
love
he's-
of Christ.
Yes.
That is showing the love of Christ.
Yes.
Yes.
So now let's look at what happens in his life in Genesis 41, verse 50. Let me see. Let's do 50 actually. And to Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bore to him. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God had made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. So he named his son to remind him that God did not forget about him.
Yes.
And then in verse 52, and the name of the second son he called Ephraim. And the definition was, for God has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And so it doesn't
that
matter.
doesn't speak just
Yes.
right there. It's
Like-
in our suffering that we are made into who we're supposed to be.
Right.
It's in that prison.
It's in that. That's
It's
where you
in the
find your
suffering.
strength.
Yes.
That's where you find your purpose. That's how you know I'm an overcomer.
Yes.
And he claimed it in the name. So every time he said Ephraim, he's like, God has made me fruitful in the land of my
that's
affliction.
prophesying over himself. That is saying
constantly a reminder. So
Constantly,
if he were to get down, he just has to say the name of his son.
That's right.
And he's speaking life. He's speaking life.
That is so good.
Genesis 42, 6 through 9. Now Joseph was governor over the land, and it was he who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brother came and bowed before him, and their faces to the earth. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he acted as a stranger to them and spoke roughly to them. Then he said to them, where did you come from? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. So Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Then Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed about them, and said to them, you are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of this land. So there's a famine.
Yes.
Joseph is the second in command underneath Pharaoh.
Yeah.
He is the one that is distributing all of the food that they had stored for 7 years. And he is responsible for helping feed the nation and the surrounding countries. And so they would have to come before Pharaoh or his first in command, and they would have to plead their case.
Right.
And like, can I get food?
Yes.
And so he recognized his brothers. 20 years, remember, 20 years have passed. They're all older. He looks like an Egyptian. They don't recognize him because they think he's an Egyptian.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, like, you can see someone on the outside, but you don't know what's on the inside. God is the only one that knows on the inside.
Well, I mean,
and so
circumstances change us.
Right.
Things that we
Circumstances
go
changes.
through changes us. That changes us physically,
Just like
spiritually,
Ruth.
mentally, everything.
Yeah, everything.
Yes.
So here we are. They come. They need food. And he remembered the dream from his youth of when they were bowing down. And so now he's trying to see how they're going to react. And so he accuses them of being a spy. All right. And so in verse 43, 26 through 28. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house and bowed down before him to the earth. Then he asked them about their well-being and said, is your father well, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive? And they said, your servant, our father, is in good health. He is still alive. And they bowed their heads down and prostrated themselves. They bowed down to him 3 times.
Yes.
And it just represents those dreams that he had. And so he welcomes them. He ends up welcoming them. He ends up getting his father. He ends up getting his brother from his mother, his biological whole brother, as some people would say. And they're reunited. Yeah. And what I love about it
feels so good.
Yes, and it feels so, so good. So verse 45, golly, I didn't bring my glasses. It's kind of hard to read.
That's
all right,
okay.
Verse 1, we're gonna read the whole thing. Okay? Chapter 45. Then Joseph could not restrain himself before all of those who stood by him, and he cried out, make everyone go away from me. So no one stood before him while Joseph made himself known to his brothers, and he wept aloud. And the Egyptians in the house and the Pharaoh heard it. I mean, that must have been a yelp. Like he was, all that pain, all that anguish. And then Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Does my father still live? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed in his presence. They thought he had died 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And Joseph said to his brothers, please come near to me. So they came near. Then they said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But now do you not therefore be grieved or angry with yourself because you sold me here? For God sent me before you to preserve life. So, I have my phone on charge. All right, so here he's declaring, like, I know what you meant. You meant harm, but God meant it for good.
And is that Romans 8:28?
Hello. Hello. So he's saying, for these 2 years the famine has been in the land, and there are still 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvesting, and God sent me before you to preserve a posterity for you in the earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So now, it was not you who sent me here, but God.
Yes.
And he has made me a father to Pharaoh and Lord of all of his house and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. God placed him there. It was God's plan the entire time.
The whole purpose, the whole entire time.
But if he would have told him that, would it have panned out?
No.
He probably would have made decisions.
That's what I'm saying. He would have messed it up.
So verse 9, hurry up. Go to the father and say to him, thus says your son Joseph, God has made me Lord of all of Egypt. Come down to me, do not tarry. You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near to me, you and your children, your children's children, your flocks and your herds, and all that you have. There I will provide for you, lest you and your household and all that you have come to poverty. For there are still 5 years of famine. And behold, your eyes and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see that it is my mouth that speaks to you. So you shall tell my father all the glory in Egypt and all that you have seen. And you shall hurry and bring my father down here. Then he fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept on his neck. Moreover, he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. And after that, his brothers talked with him.
So now right here is restoration.
Oh, like, could you imagine?
That's your
my husband. I can't see.
Like, who is
that? Interrupting our lives. Thank you.
That's all right.
All right. So, talk about a great family reunion. You know, I recently had a family reunion of people that I've never met.
Yeah.
My blood. I can't imagine being separated from someone 20 years after all that drama. And, you know, like, I can't. I can relate. I can relate.
Right.
So, where were we, girl?
Moreover,
kiss his brothers. Now the report was heard, Pharaoh. Okay, so now the report of it was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brothers have come. So it pleased Pharaoh and his servants well. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, say to your brothers, do this, load your animals and depart, go to the land of Canaan, bring your father and your households and come to me. I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you will eat of the fat of the land.
Yes.
So now he's got the approval of Pharaoh. My baby boy. Hey, baby. He's on here. Now you are commanded to do this. Take carts out of the land of Egypt for your little ones and your wives. Bring your father and come. Also, do not be concerned about your goods, for the best of all the land of Egypt is yours.
Yes.
Then your sons of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them carts, according to the command of Pharaoh, and he gave them provisions for the journey. He gave all of them to each man changes of garment, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of garments. And he said to his father these things: 10 donkeys loaded with the good things of Egypt, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, bread, and food, and for his father. So he's like blessing them exceedingly abundantly above anything they could ever hope or wish for: clothes, food, everything that they need, resources, and sending them on their way in style. So he sent his brothers away, and they departed, and he said to them, see that you do not become troubled along the way.
Yes.
Then they went up to Egypt and came to the land of Canaan to Jacob their father. And they told him, saying, Joseph still alive. Could you imagine that, Daddy? Like, I know that's why my dad was like, I finally found you. I can't even, you know. Wow.
That's right.
And he is governor of all of the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart stood still before he did not believe them.
Yes.
It took his breath away. But when they told him all the words which Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the carts which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Joseph, their father, was revived.
Yes.
Then Israel said, it is enough. Joseph, my son, is still alive. I will go and see him before I die. I was reading this the other day, and I was bawling because I was like, oh my God, like he is so good.
He is.
He meant no harm, but he blessed Joseph through every single circumstance, just like he wants to bless you.
Yes.
Everything that you do it for the Lord. Have courage. Be counterculture.
To stand
and
when all this you're brought through, the suffering, the turmoil, everything.
Work with excellence. Work unto God, and he will bless you.
Yes.
And he will change the circumstances all around you. And he will give you things that you never even dreamed about. And all of your dreams will be better than you could ever imagine. Right. And so I hope that you were inspired by the life of Joseph. If you've never read it, please go back and read it. Genesis 37 through 50. Or if you have and you're very familiar, because it is a common storyline, look at it from a different perspective. How can I apply that to my life?
Right.
What changes do I need to make to change my world? How can I stand for God today in my position? How can I be used?
Yes.
So
that's the question.
Yeah. So anyway, hope you guys have a great day.
Yes.
And we thank you for your comments. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your support, most definitely. And I think next week we're going to have to make some changes on our live again because we have an all-day meeting.
Yes.
So we will definitely post.
We'll have to probably change the day.
Yeah, post what we're going to do for next week. But anyway, thank you so much. Subscribe. All of our lives are posted on our YouTube. Chalk It Up with Leesa. You could follow us, katierussell.net, chalkitupwithlisa.com. We want to hear from you. How has God blessed you? What has God said to you through this word? And because that will encourage us, y'all.
Yes.
But we want to see your perspective on how God speaks to you through his word.
Yes.
So we hope that you have a blessed day. And if you do want to get closer to God and you don't know how, please let us know, because we would love to pray with you and help you in that way.
Yes.
So have a great day.